Kia ora everybody, welcome to July 2015 Earth Prediction Series with me. You can see in front of you all the cards that were selected, or not selected, but decided to arrive themselves for the reading of July. We generally start over on the left hand side and then work our way through the cards, and I often think that even indicates perhaps the passage of time that these events, or the kind of feeling or energy that the cards give off, that's the time of the month that they may show up as well. So we have, interestingly enough, these two cards that were in June's reading as well, and often when they show themselves up in a pattern month after month, they have a double effect meaning, so their meaning or energy appears or feels to be stronger. If we start with the card on the left, the Liberation card, I have often associated it with the feeling of Australia and issues to do with Australia. So I think of the snake basically is what does that for me, because Australia has so many snakes there. So I often think of Aussie, and I think of, if you look in the background, there are two people fleeing on the back of a horse, and there's rapid water going underneath a bridge in the back of the picture. So I often think of fleeing situations, and it can be to do with weather-related situations such as floods or immense storms, water that surges, and it can even literally be something like the feeling an inland tsunami might create. It can also be fleeing things for various other reasons, and we think too the possibility of fleeing areas or running away from something in a hurry where there's panic involved. So it could be even terror events or something along those lines. There's also the doors there in the scene. There's this wooden door here, and there's this one that seems to be about to shut down. So somehow doors, or the feeling of being locked into something, or hidden behind a door, also comes into feeling with this card. We move on to the next card and we see the Fool. And we had him here in June, and there was a rather horrible event of a mass murder that occurred in America, and the person who committed the shooting had a haircut almost identical to this person in the card, the Fool. The boy that was the perpetrator in the mass shootings that was involved with the church, and his surname was Roth or Roof. And we have this house here teetering on the edge in the background, and I kind of categorise the church as being that house. So we get again the feeling of potential, unfortunately, random events with perhaps carried out by disturbed minds. And these two cards are sitting together, and they were in June's prediction as well, and the Father card was sitting up here above these cards below. So I think that energy may be manifesting itself still for July. Also, the Fool has in the past led me to think of earthquakes, or houses teetering on the edge of something that's creating them to topple over, and that can be floodwaters again, or it could be quaking and shaking related. When we move to the Father card, we see him pointing up to the sky, so we know it's about looking to the heavens, looking to the skies, following patterns of observation on celestial bodies one way or another, whether they be the movements of these celestial bodies such as planets or asteroids or meteorites, or new informational technology coming to us about these objects or space, as well as objects falling from space such as meteorites, asteroids, planes, satellites, things like that. That's the feeling that that card initially gives, but we do look at the fact that there is artillery involved and weaponry, and they are in the stance of aggression and fighting, and that's why that card has the warrior feeling about it as well, and warring tendencies. And I did mention in June's prediction that there could be that feeling up through Europe area, so perhaps for July it still carries on in those particular areas. we come to the Tower card, and the Tower again has the feeling of Europe, and because we look at these very old classical castles really on the globe, most of those buildings are up through that part of our land, and I sometimes think of Italy in particular. So I'm not sure what that could mean for Italy. Is it floods or storms or political? Something along those lines, but keep your eyes and ears open for that. It could be areas surrounding Italy as well. And I often do think of quakes with the Tower card. I think of it because of this land rising. The Libido card, often when it turns up, which is this one here, indicates rapid surging waters. So we've got a few of these rapid surging waters. We've got 1, 2 and 3. And so indication of floods, you know, quick flowing water that's rapid and moving, rocks involved in it, so it can be landslides again. So something created in a big weather storm, and it creates immense movement and quickness of pace. And the other thing that the card suggests are animals. You can clearly see the animals there in it. There's also a second snake involved, and the peacock here, 2 peacocks. So I think of animals being affected one way or another on the planet. The other thing that the Libido card can bring out are mass compassion events one way or another. So sometimes these can be positive mass compassion events, such as big celebrations. And if we think of that, the peacock's tail looks a little bit like fireworks going off. And I know for July it's America's Independence Day on the 4th of July, and that there are big celebrations involved around that time. So sometimes we pick up on those celebratory events, you know, big gatherings where mass jubilation and excitement and activity occurs. The other thing that the Libido card can pick up on are mass compassion events, which is the complete opposite. So events that do occur that create just huge heart-swelling compassion from everywhere around the globe, just feeling loss and sadness for events that could occur. And sometimes, sadly, it can have to do with shootings, you know, mass shootings up in areas like the USA or Canada, or even up through that Swedish, Norway type area. We'll have to keep our eyes on it. Now the last card that turned up was the reversed wheel. I have yet to understand what that could mean. We know if we turn the wheel around, we talk about cyclical periods in life, or the cycles of the universe, the cycles of the planets, and as well as quick waters, you know, flowing waters, flooding, that type of activity. So what the reversed wheel actually means is going to require some input from everyone, really, keeping your thoughts open and giving your input to as to what you think the card might be. It's a difficult one. I've been pondering on it for a week or so, thinking, you know, what exactly does it mean? And my best thoughts are that it's something reversing in time. So do we backtrack on something in time? Are we wanting to withdraw something that we're already up to and wish it hadn't happened? Or do we go back in time and look at a point to figure out why we're where we are now, or how to move forward from it? It also, is it something about the planets that we find out is information that perhaps we've been led to believe for a long time, that suddenly we go, oh, well, wait a minute, that was all wrong. It's something along those lines. It could be with the water. Is it water that's falling as opposed to flowing? Because if that water's upside down, it might be falling somehow. So a bit of a conundrum with the reversed wheel. It's got a number that adds up to 8. So the number 8 is a cycle of life number as well. So we do get the feelings of cycles and somehow the reversal of some sort of cycle. So anyhow, guys, that is the July reading. I thank you all for following, leaving your comments, and your thoughts and interpretations of the cards as well. I think these series are very pertinent to the changes that are taking place on this planet at the moment. We know that in June the Pope put out his encyclical, I think it's called, about climate change. Barack Obama speaks with David Attenborough on the climate change issues. So we are coming up more and more in our faces and having to accept that this planet is changing, and it's changing rapidly, and we all have to find ways of getting a solution and coming to understand and come to grips with what exactly is going on. I firmly believe it's not just our planet, that there's more happening than we understand at this point, but for sure as humans we need to be more in harmony with the way we live on the planet and how we treat our precious resources, because this is our only home, and without it we don't exist. So that's my feelings on the whole planet and the climate change issue. So thanks again guys, kia kaha and much aroha to you all. Be safe and have a great July.